Everyone, yeah. Hi guys, thanks for joining me for this start of series of evening events. I thought long and hard about how to improve on the entertainment for this, seventh peak of Corona? Yeah, I mean, by now we're all used to cozing up inside and everyone knows how to control their Zoom cameras. So what better way to spend an evening than... dun dun dun! Telling stories! Well, not just any stories either, urban legends, mixed with fan fiction. So, urban fiction it is!
Yeah. We all got your texts, all 75 of them. Think of a story. Make it scarier. No props, just good old-fashioned storytelling.
Exactly. I'm so happy you're getting in the spirit.
As long as we get to eat some snacks, I'm good. I've got popcorn, cheese and onion crisps, vodka in a teacup.
Nice, but as long as you keep the sound off, snack all you want. No interruptions during the stories, though, please. This is all about the mood. So did you all get your scented candles? I'm sure I texted you about them specifically.
You did, yes.
It's just they help so much for getting into it. Oh, there, I can feel the story growing inside me already.
You sure that's not your dinner?
Shush. Right, if we all get comfy, light your candles, and get ready to tell our urban fiction.
Could you stop talking like that?
It's my storyteller voice.
It's a bit crap.
It's not. I got top marks for that at uni. They said I should read audiobooks for a living, or be on the radio. A suave, soothing voice which compels anyone to do exactly as I say. After all, you heard my WhatsApp messages and here you are.
Yeah, because there's nothing better to do than that stupid virus still rampaging. You know, I was sure in 2021 it would be the last lockdown, but no, it's 2025 and it's still going. So yeah, here we are, ready for an evening's entertainment with Mandy. Could somebody just kill me now and get it over with?
That could be right.
If we get an excuse to eat snacks, I'm here. I don't care what we chat about. And maybe this will be good. I mean, we're all contributing and my story is partially true. Just spruced it up a bit in that fan fiction-y way. You know, that sort of sense that you said.
Okay, well, we'll get to yours soon enough. But since I called the meeting and I'm the host with the important Zoom functions like muting you and kicking you out, I get to start. And my story also happens to be true?
Crack on, we're all ears.
Right, so this is a story from my school. No, it's good. Like I said, it's true. A proper urban crime story, so with gore and all.
Yeah, well, gore? I mean, but my snacks, can't you just skip the gory parts? Or, leap when it's supposed to be bloody?
Oh, you can handle it. It's not brains and intestines or things like that.
Good.
It's just mouldering corpses and the like. It would be a bit whiffy if you were at the scene, but not here.
Oh, jolly.
Oh, stop interrupting now. I'm trying to bless you with my smooth voice box. It was a rainy and stormy evening. I was alone at work. Everyone had left the school. Classrooms and hallways were empty and the staff room was quiet for once. No kettle, no photocopier. Dead quiet. But then, as I was packing my bag, I heard a distinct...
A distinct what?
I was pausing for effect. I heard a distinct knock. It was a little knock. I wasn't sure, but it was sharp. I stopped packing up and looked around, but I didn't see anything. I finished up and walked out into the hallway, and behind me, I heard something again. Running steps. Sounded like a child.
Ooh, scary. So one of the children had been hiding and been left behind. Quite a story. Not very spooky, but an excellent example of shitty parenting or poor teaching.
No, shush, it wasn't like that. I turned around and yes, it was a child, but not one I'd seen around the school. It was strange. She was wearing dungarees, like 70s ones, corduroy, and a hideous, loud flower-patterned shirt thingy. She giggled and ran away from me. I didn't know what to do. I just stood there. I was sure I'd never seen her before.
You know all the students at the school?
Well, no, but it was like I said, the look, the clothes. She looked old, despite being no more than 5 or 6.
Right.
Anyway, so I followed the girl. She starts running in the hallway incredibly fast, and I hurry after her. Well, she dashes into one of the rooms, and then nothing. When I get there, she's not there. Really, I looked around under the desks, in the cupboards, nothing. I thought, not that I was crazy, but maybe I was just tired. So I got my bag and started to leave. And I got all the way to the staff room and the staff exit when I heard it again. The giggling. I didn't turn around. I just grabbed my coat and left. The next day I was on my own in the staff room when the caretaker came in. Well, we started chatting and I knew he used to stay late. So I asked him if he had ever heard anything strange. And you know what he said?
No.
That's right. He'd heard the giggling too, several times. But he'd never seen anyone. I described the girl and he looked puzzled. He told me to wait and then he went off to his office and came back with a newspaper clipping. Was this her, he said. And it was. He'd found that clipping some time ago and clearing out some old cupboards. Apparently, a young girl had disappeared there in the early 70s. They'd closed the school, searched everywhere, but they couldn't find her. Eventually, they thought maybe she'd escaped the school grounds, and so they extended the search, but they never found her.
Oh, very scary story. It's more sad. Oh, poor little girl. Or maybe she drowned in the Thames or something.
I'm not done. We decided to stay late that evening, the caretaker and I, and sure enough, as dusk settled in and we heard it, the giggling and the running steps in the corridor. We had turned off all the lights and we were sitting there with just our phones and the computer screens lighting things up. We followed her into that classroom and again, gone. We looked around and Phil, well that's the caretaker, he started knocking on the walls. It's an odd room and no even walls there. While waiting for evening to fall, we talked about the fact that the building had used to be an old folks' home or something before it was refurbished into a school. So some of the walls had been moved. Well, as he was knocking, the sound changed, and we found a large section of the wall which was hollow. He went and got his tools, and we managed to make a big hole in the wall. Oh, the smell. The smell was awful. And we broke the whole thing open, and in there was a little room with a bed and a sink, a living quarter. And in the bed you could see the shape of 2 bodies.
2?
When forensics came and searched the place, they started looking into the story of the old folks' home. Turns out it wasn't just a regular one, but more like an asylum, and one of the old ladies went missing. We guessed she'd managed to stay behind when they closed the asylum.
Oh, great workplace you've got.
Isn't it? Right, who's next? Are we all feeling in the mood? Do we need a refill before the next story?
Nah, all good still.
I'll go. Mine is also a true story. It happened when I was 11 or 12. I went to summer camp as usual with a friend, Carl. He was my best friend. I've never told anyone about this before, not even Mum and Dad. I didn't say anything when they came to get me, and they didn't ask. I guess all the leaders had already told them part of the story when they called the parents to come and pick everyone up. It was supposed to be one of those great sunny summers full of memories for life. This one is etched in my memory for sure, but not because of the weather. Carl and I had been best friends for a couple of years. I'd been to camp several times and he wanted to go too, but he'd never been to camp before since he didn't like to be away from his parents. Don't laugh. It's harder than I thought to talk about this. Oh, it's a long time ago. But I remember it as clearly as if it had been last summer. Little cabins round a lake, children's paradise, rowboats and a stretch of sandy beach.
Golden summer beaches. Sounds very frightening. I feel a shiver in my bones.
They had these cute little cabins and you shared bunk beds, 2 and 2. I got the top bunk and Carl was scared of so many things, so he got the bottom one. We used to lie awake at night and I'd tell him scary stories so he couldn't sleep.
Sounds just like you.
The leaders were lovely. They'd come round in the evenings with hot cocoa in thermos flasks and we'd chat for hours. They were quite young, actually. They had been for years. I can't believe I didn't notice. Year after year, and they still looked exactly the same. Not just the leader uniforms, but everything.
The camp was run by zombies. What a revelation.
It was worse than zombies.
Is there such a thing?
I didn't tell anyone at the time. I didn't think anyone would believe me.
Believe what?
How and why Carl died.
Well, go on.
We were down by the beach one day just after dinner. The sun was setting, but it was still very warm. Carl took his shoes off and waded into the water to cool down. Becky, one of the leaders, came and joined us, so we sat down on a log by the water. I said to her, "It's always so beautiful here. The water is great and it never rains." "You're right," she said, "but it comes at a price." As she says that, I hear Carl shriek worse than normal. I look up and see him sinking into the water. I want to run to him, but I'm frozen on the log. I can't move. Becky looks at me and her smile is gone. "It costs a life every year," she says. "The lake took mine 10 years ago, but I was allowed to come back as one of the keepers. Eternal life and a sunny summer camp to make sure it stays gorgeous like this every year. A small price to pay, don't you think, to get to live in paradise? I still can't move. Carl's head is underwater and I want to run to him, scream for help, but I can't." Becky smiles and says, "Shame about your friend. I wouldn't mention this conversation to anyone. No one is going to believe you. They'll just think you're crazy and lock you up somewhere." She gets up from the log and I can move again. I throw myself into the water after Carl, but it is too late. I never went back there again, but I hear the sun always shines there still, every day of the year, like a little secluded paradise.
That's cool stuff. But I'm sorry about your friend.
Thanks.
So who's next?
Well, I seem to have followed suit because my story is also true, with added bits. Oh, you'll get that joke in a minute.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, this is like Mean Girls meets Heathers, but real life. First year of uni, and I was hanging out with this group of girls, and they were all obsessed with what they ate.
Like you then?
No, the opposite. With what they didn't eat, they ate literally nothing. It was like a competition they had. You know, they tried to put everyone off their food.
So why were you hanging with them?
Well, except when they were in the cafeteria, they were nice. They got good grades, so I thought, you know, that would rub off on me or something. And we had a great time studying, and I didn't want to, you know, sit alone in the library. So we had fun and, you know, could talk about anything.
Oh, because libraries are the place for talking? I swear, it's people like you that ruin the genuine atmosphere of the castles of learning. Libraries are to be cherished, revered even, treated with the respect they deserve. One should enter one like it was the most sacred of sacred churches. Aisle after aisle of books, knowledge, power.
Are you done? Would you let Karen finish the story?
Sorry, I always get carried away when I think about libraries. I could live in one.
How about the one at your school?
Oh, no thanks. I don't want any more ghosts around my beloved books.
Look, apart then from meeting in the library, and the, memorable thing about my study group, like I said, was their lunch pact. Whoever was the best at controlling their hunger that week got to decide what we were going to do the following weekend. So it was difficult, though. It's harder than you think not to eat. It makes it, harder to think. And yeah, I would say that's why I went along with it.
Well, thinking's not your strong point these days either, whether you're eating or not.
Look, we had these strategies, like talking about where the food comes from, the meat that is, and eggs, really off-putting when you think about it. I mean, nowadays, I don't. Lisa was the worst. She had a calorie counter in a handbag, and it listed the calories in the most common foods. So she used to sit there and add up what everyone ate.
Mental.
Your salad with 2 eggs contains 600 calories just because you added cheese and dressing, she said. That Mars bar is a whopping 230 calories on its own, and you just had a sandwich too. Oh, it didn't help, and she got more and more obsessed with it. And it was like she got angry with the rest of us for not being able to do it as well as she did. It became like a mission.
I thought my classmates at school were loons.
One day I found her in a strange section in the library. I was looking for a history book, but I found her in the folklore section on the way there. And I asked what she was looking for, but she just slammed the book shut because she was reading it, and she pushed it back on the shelf, shrugged her shoulders and walked off. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but later, during the lunch hours, strange things started happening.
Ooh.
Such as?
Well, everyone was trying to be good, ordering salads and whatnot. Lisa just drank sparkling water. But every time we ordered something, someone found nasty things in their food.
Pardon?
Yeah, like real icky stuff.
Ooh.
First time, a long hair wrapped around a salad leaf.
Ugh.
Next, it was a clip-on nail. But the worst!
Thanks, I think we've heard enough.
Oh, no, go on. This is the creepiest story so far this evening.
I swear it was a piece of someone's thumb in my salad.
Oh.
It was just like a little sausage tip, but wrinkly like a raisin, whitish, all colour and like blood drained. Well, like a charm. None of us wanted to eat for weeks.
No kidding, I can't eat now.
I don't want to eat anything for a month now. That's disgusting.
But she was happy. It was a mission accomplished for her. So we all had sparkling water, and we got on for some time, but it's draining, like not eating. I mean, I couldn't ever do it again. I mean, she was the only one managing to keep her grades up. We all wondered how she did it. And I was the one who figured it out.
How?
Well, it was late one evening, just before closing time at the library, and I was going back to the history section and remembered having seen among the folklore books. I was curious what she had looked up and glanced over to the shelf. The book she'd used was not pushed back fully, and I recognised it since it was decorated with gold.
Ooh, shiny.
Yeah, very shiny and glamorous. Guess what book it was?
The Grimoire of Satan's Obedient Dwarfs.
No, I've got this one. How I Gained Success and Thwarted the Law by Martha Stewart.
An illustrated version of the Old Testament. Plagues and misfortunes.
Close. It was The Evil Eye and Other Curses by Mama Tekona, gypsy medicine woman.
Wow.
I recognised Lisa's handwriting. She had made notes in the margins like how to stop hunger, how to gain knowledge from a book without reading it, useful things.
Not how to get rich and gain world power.
Oh, not that I saw that, unfortunately.
Shame.
Well, I wasn't sure at first if I should confront her or see if there were any things in the book I could use myself. So I figured as long as it was nothing too conspicuous, like improving grades, etc., it wouldn't be a bad thing. But that's when I saw her most worrying notes.
Which were?
How to get rid of your competition altogether.
So, what did you do?
Oh, anyway, come on, it's getting late now, yeah? I'm sure it's time for Paul's story, yeah?
Oh, no, we've got plenty of time. Tell us, so what did you do?
Well, let's just say I had no more competition and, I decided that I wanted to graduate with honours.
Any gypsy incantations you could share? I've always thought the head teacher deserves a nice wart on her nose. It would go with any outfit. What was that?
As if you don't know? I've got these lame messages all day. Hello, Sydney. What's your favourite scary movie? Really funny. It just so happens that my middle name actually is Sydney. Also, caller withheld calls all day. Don't you have anything better to do? I know it's the half-term holidays, but don't you teachers catch up on reading or something? Harassing your friends isn't part of the after-school curriculum, in case you missed that lecture.
I didn't send you anything.
Oh, yeah, right. Not the do you want to die, Sydney one either, then? I know your favourite movie's Scream, but by the 10th message it was getting a bit too much. Huh? Who is this? Oh, I don't want to play a game. This is so not funny. Look, who is this?
Paul?
Paul!
Sydney?
Hello, Paul? Are you okay? It's not funny.
Yeah, as Jenny said, this song was written, the lyrics were written by the Australian poet John Manifold, and it was set to music by, I've forgotten his name now. I learned it from a guy who learned it from a guy, in the way we learn things on the folk scene. Lie down, my newly married wife. Lie easy as you can. You're young and ill-accustomed yet to sleeping with a man. The snow was deep, the moon was full, as it shone on the cabin floor. His young bride rose without a word and ran barefoot through the door. He up and followed, fast and sure, and an angry man was he. But his young bride wasn't there in sight, and only the moon shone clearly. He followed her tracks through the new-laid snow, calling out loud her name. But only the dingoes in the hills yowled back at him again. Then the hair stood up all on his neck, and his angry mind was gone. For where the 2-foot tracks gave out, the 4-footed track went on. Her nightgown lay upon the snow, as it might on a bed sheet, and the tracks that led from where it lay were never of human feet. He first started in to walking back, and then he began to run. His quarry turned all in her tracks and hunted him in turn. An empty bed still waits for him as he lies in a crimson tide. Beware, beware, oh trapper man, beware of a grisly bride.
Sir, I feel that I must write on matters grave, as is my right. Despite the fact my complaint might cause you to feel you've suffered slight, you'll realize the matter to which I allude concerns your behavior, most frightfully rude, in thinking you had the right to intrude upon our young ladies. What's more, sir, you booed. Though I grant that night there was a storm, and you may well have wanted to find somewhere warm, your sudden appearance within the girls' dorm was plain and simple the height of bad form. To visit on such a dreadful night, in a visage of such dreadful white, in a bid to cause young ladies fright, was, to put it bluntly, impolite. And though I feel you may feel slighted, I must insist this wrong is righted. You see, you fiend, you weren't invited. And a lady disrobed should never be sighted by a gentleman, be he alive or not. And incidentally, our girls are taught to pay no attention to all that rot about ghosts and things from a Gothic plot. Though you may be bold enough to dare and delicate feminine wits to scare, I should point out we're well aware that science states you are not there. So to close, I really must insist that from further trespasses you kindly desist. For I warn you, if such intrusions persist, I'll be forced to prove you do not exist. Yours, Lady Stephanie Ormson's Balderdash, Headmistress, St. Cynic's College for British Girls.
Hear me, my dark ones. This night will once and for all herald the ascension of the vampire race. We shall paint our way across the world in an ocean of blood. We will carve a monolith in time and space with the powers of darkness, and our future will burn as brightly as the very fires of hell. Come, my followers, come to me now, and let us replenish our ranks for our army of the dead.
Good evening, my dark brother. I trust this night finds you well.
Well enough, my friend. I trust you had a pleasant evening.
Well enough, well enough. Wolves were howling all through the night, and other Welsh hymns. The bitter chill of the Romanian countryside, the sound of Satan's worshippers crying out to the dark ones to blanket this world in an infinite fog of death. Yes, it has been truly wonderful.
I couldn't agree more. As night nightmarish a night as I could have hoped for. My love, let us choose another to share in our vision of a world without innocence. Let us gather forces for the age of the vampire. Beyond this door, there await several candidates ready for our, shall we say, approval. May I command the first one to join us?
At once, my love, for even now the dark gods are contemplating their fate. Everyone ready?
No chance of a cup of tea?
Goodness
We've
sake.
talked about this, Nosferatu. There are times for tea and there are times for blood. This is not for tea.
Thank you.
And you, my dear?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay. Wave her in. Enter, my minion, and share with us your deathly desires. Tell me, child, what name do you go by?
Hi, I'm Debbie, Debs, but my vampire name is Nightshade.
Right.
Tell me, how pretty, what experiences do you have of the world of the undead?
Well, I did work in an old people's home as part of my work experience. I originally wanted to top bin just before the requests were due in. So by the time I came back, all the best stuff had been taken. But it was okay because my nan went to the same care home I got sent to, so we just sort of sat around playing Scrabble all week. It was so cool.
Tell me, Deborah. Oh, I mean, Nightshade. How do you feel you would be of benefit to our dark cause?
Well, I've read all the Twilight books and seen all the films. I've watched The Vampire Diaries, Supernatural, Buffy and Angel, of course, Being Human, Penny Dreadful. Oh, and I bought fangs. Not proper ones, but the ones you put in with this kind of modelling clay. But I tried putting them in and they wouldn't stay. So I tried using chewing gum instead, but that was even worse. So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What exactly is this Twilight thing?
A work of fiction, my lord.
Tells the tale of a young vampire who is at odds with duality as he finds himself in love with a human girl.
Is it any good?
No. I'm more of an Anne Rice fan myself.
Oh, Interview with a Vampire. I've seen that. Only I wasn't meant to because it was an 18 and I was only 11 at the time. My mum said it had saucy bits in it, but it wasn't that saucy. But oh my God, Tom Cruise is so hot. Do you guys know him? Because my sister says she saw him once in Covent Garden, but I never believed her. Is he as short as everyone says he is? Does he have a box to stand on, or does someone just sort of lift him up by the armpits? Because
Silence! Do excuse me, Debbie. I believe my companion has a question.
I do? Oh, I do. Okay, then. My dear, where do you see yourself?
in the mirror.
I think that might all be all we've time for, my lord.
Yes, Nightshade, I think we're just about done here.
Really? How did I do?
We'll let you know.
Thank you, my dear.
Goodbye, young one.
Okay, bye.
Thoughts?
Well, I think,
My love?
I think she displays enthusiasm.
A little too much, if you ask me. Is it just me, or does today's youth have a somewhat diluted notion of what it means to be a servant of evil?
I suppose you could say their perceptions of what it means to be a vampire are somewhat more...
Quite.
Modern.
Quite.
I sense she may simply be unaccustomed to, well...
Shall we meet the next candidate?
Yes. Let's.
Of course.
Enter, my minion, and share with us your... And what is your name, my child?
Huh?
Your name.
Shadow Vixen.
Very well.
What do you know about vampires?
I know they glisten in the sun.
Glisten in the sun? My dear, we are creatures of the night. We do not glisten in the sun.
Absolutely not. Oh, again with the twilight. What is this twilight thing? I must know. Somebody explain to me in detail.
Well, I believe it to be the case of one way of life drawn in parallel with another. The contrast of two souls uneasy with their place in the world. One a vampire, the other a mortal female. Two fates intertwined, and the love they share is somewhat complicated by the expectations laid upon them by the shallow and vapid society in which they live, which in turn merely increases their desire for one another. Not that I'm a fan or anything.
Fine.
At last, Count Dracula, I have found you. Leave, child. This is no place for you.
Whatever.
Well, this lad certainly has some spirit. What name hast thou?
You know me, Count. We have met many times before, although I wish I could say the last experience was a pleasant one.
Did we meet at that gathering last year? What was it, my love? That thing in Prague with the name tags and the branded stationery.
Oh, I know. The reunion thing.
Ah, of course. I remember. That was truly awful. How are you, Gabriel? My, how the years have been kind.
It's Abraham. Abraham Van Helsing.
Abraham, yes. I see. I could place a name, face, sorry, but not the name. Good to see you. Come, let us not waste any more time with formalities and commence with the questioning. Ah, how long have you known about us?
I know everything about you since your demonic creation. I have made it my personal quest to confront you in person. At last, your time has come.
Well, that certainly sounds very dedicated, Mr. Hellsong, was it? Very good, my love. Have you any questions?
Oh, of course, of course. How did you find out about us?
Word was sent to me through the Vatican. I have been personally charged by Pope Leo XIII himself.
Wow. Well, that is impressive. Can't do much better than that, can you?
Tell me, by what means did you prepare yourself today?
My entire life has been devoted to bringing an end to your evil plans. I have been readying for this occasion alone for the past 2 years. I have silver, holy water, garlic, white oak, and this. This ends now, Count. Your reign of terror has finally come to an end.
Well, I'm impressed. How about you?
I have to say, Mr. Helsing, I have rarely seen such passion as I have seen in here tonight. Such spirit, such power. I'm going to have to say yes.
I couldn't agree more. You came here with your heart set on achieving your goal, and you did just that. I am truly amazed. It's a yes from me.
Right? Count?
It is a yes from me.
Huzzah! Oh, how splendid. I'm so happy. Oh, I won't let you down. I have so many people to tell. Wait a minute, I just shot you.
Oh, yes.
Magnificent aim, by the way.
Wonderful, extraordinary.
Right, but you are dying, yes?
Oh, yes, of course. Oh, very well. I'll see you again next week.
I'm going to leave now, if that's all right.
By all means, my boy. You've earned a rest.
Right.
I like him.
Yes, very devoted, very clean.
Very good. And here I was, thinking that this enterprise would be fruitless. Well, I don't think we need to see any more, do you?
Absolutely not.
Let us depart and perhaps take in the night air. I have high hopes for that young man.
Will you be all right? It does kind of look in there.
Oh, this? Yes, fine. I'll just run it under some cold water. Sleep it off.
Mind you use disinfectant? We won't be contracting anything.
Ah, now that would be ironic.
Hello, my name is David Calloway, and I'm making this recording because I want people to know the truth about my death. Oh, no, I'm not dead yet. This isn't a video message from beyond the grave. As I speak these words, I am alive, if not exactly well. But I am going to die soon, very soon. Tonight, in fact. And I want people to know the truth after I'm gone. My story begins a long time ago when I was at school. The school was nothing special, and neither was I, if truth be told. I was rather a lonely child, really. Academically, I was mediocre. I didn't like sports, and I couldn't see the appeal of the rough and tumble and practical jokes the other boys seemed so keen on. I like reading, but being a bookworm doesn't win you many friends. So I just pottered along in the background, keeping my head down, trying not to stand out, and usually succeeded. Then one day when I was 10 years old, Alan walked into the classroom. He was older than the rest of us, but he had been held back after missing almost all of the previous academic year. It was a sad story. His mother had been killed in a car crash. Drunk driver. Alan had been in the car too, but had survived. He had been in and out of the hospital for months, having various operations to mend his smashed pelvis, and now walked with a pronounced limp. Always an active and outgoing child, the shock of losing his mother, as well as his physical deformity, had turned him into an introvert. He barely spoke and had trouble looking at people in the eye. I recognized in him a loner, a misfit, such as I was myself. Other than a morbid curiosity about his tragic accident, I had little interest in Alan at first. Unlike the others, he didn't laugh at me or give me dead arms when the teachers weren't looking. He didn't do anything at all. He left me alone, and I left him alone. Then, one day, we discovered we shared an interest. It was a cold, rainy November afternoon. Alan could not do sport because of his leg, and I managed to inveigle a sick note from my mother on the utterly fictitious excuse of a cold. So while the other boys rolled like beasts on the muddy rugby field, Alan and I sat quietly in the classroom, supervised by a bored and distracted prefect, who had suggested that we got on with some reading or something. When we both reached into our satchels and produced the exact same comic book, we caught each other's eye and smiled. By the end of the afternoon, we were sat side by side, sharing a packet of sweets and arguing companionably over the merit of various heroes, villains, storylines, while the prefect dozed peacefully in his chair. Over the next year, we became inseparable. We worked next to each other and spent all our free time together. Having a friend was new to me, let alone a best friend, and I was dizzy with the joy of it. Alan was clever and kind. He never minded when I was a bit slow, never made fun of me. He was happy to explain things to me, never mocking or impatient. And when he explained things, they suddenly became clear, almost obvious. The other boys never picked on him. Even they realized that tormenting a boy with a deformity would not be tolerated, and he made sure that they knew that I was under his protection as well. He was also very funny when he opened up. He made me laugh, made the world seem a brighter place, and this, combined with his quick mind, eventually made him popular with pupils and teachers alike. Nevertheless, he remained my special friend, and I his. My confidence grew and my school reports got better. My parents loved him and were always happy for him to come and stay. He loved being with us too. I got the impression things were not well at home, and having met his father, I understood. Alan's home was a dark place, full of bitterness, grief and sad memories. Alan was like that himself sometimes too. The laughter would die from his eyes and be replaced with an awful, aching blankness. His hip pained him more during these times, and his limp became worse than ever. I learnt to leave him alone when he was like that. Nothing I could say or do would help. After a few days, the old Alan will be back, smiling and clapping me on the back and making plans for us to go fishing. When we left school, we went to university. Together, of course. Nothing would induce me to be parted from Alan, and I worked like stink to get my exams so that I could be there with him. He was studying biology, and I English, but we shared a house and we were as inseparable as ever. It was while we were there that Alan's father announced he was going to get married again. Naively, I thought that Alan would be pleased that his father was happy, but that was far from the case. The blankness took him again, far worse than I'd ever seen it. He locked himself in his room for days, and when he finally emerged, it was like he was walking in a coma. Nothing could rouse him, not food, not television, not his studies. In despair, I took him to a theme night at the Student Union. Not usually our sort of place, but I was getting desperate. I don't remember what the theme was, but I imagine it must have been Halloween, for it was there that we met Frances, dressed as a witch. She asked Alan if his limp was part of his costume. He said it wasn't, but didn't explain. Undaunted, she pressed on and making funny remarks about people around us, the music, the political situation, anything and everything, all the while sipping from the outlandishly lurid cocktail she was holding. As she chattered, I watched as Alan slowly but surely came back to life. A light began to glimmer in his eyes and his posture changed, his whole body seeming to uncurl and straighten as I watched. By the end of the night, he was talking and laughing almost back to his old self, and Frances, with her red hair, her freckles, and her wide smile, was our new friend. From then on, the three of us were always together, always laughing. Frances was a ray of sunshine. Her ready wit kept us entertained, and her enthusiasm for life was infectious. Alan's blank episodes happened less and less often, and I found myself warming to her in a way that I'd never warmed to any woman before. We were the terrible trio, the Three Musketeers. Then, as time went on, inevitably it became 2 + 1. By the time we graduated, Alan with the first and me with a respectable 2-1, Frances and Alan were engaged. Often these intense friendships born in the schoolroom burn out. People go their separate ways after university, people change, people make new relationships, and their personalities and priorities are very different from when they were 10 years old. This was not the case with Alan and me. He has been by my side throughout my life, every step of the way. He was there when I got married. He was present at the birth of my first child. In the waiting room with me, of course, not at the birth itself. I will never forget my 40th birthday, celebrated in style at a very expensive London restaurant. Just the three of us, myself, Frances and Alan. Frances was radiant. Alan was his usual self. He never changes. He was at my retirement party, and he was in the doctor's surgery with me when I was diagnosed with cancer. Such a close platonic relationship between two men is rare enough in itself, but it's even more unusual in our case because Alan is dead. Oh, of course I didn't mention that, did I? Yes, he died when he was 21, hit by a train. There was an inquest, of course, but nobody really contributed anything useful. Frances said that he'd seemed perfectly well only that morning, but admitted he was occasionally subject to sudden fits of depression. I said something similar, and also mentioned his infirmity. Maybe he slipped and fell. Somebody testified that he'd been seen talking to a young man on the platform just minutes before. Efforts were made to find that young man, but nothing came of it. The verdict, death by misadventure. Alan would have hated that. He was a scientist. He dealt in certainties. Such a woolly verdict on his own death would have upset him greatly. Since then, he has never left me alone for long. Invariably, he has been present at every milestone. Over the years, I've learnt to expect the sound of his limping footsteps, the feel of his cold breath on my neck, the sight of his awful, blank, staring eyes. I have accepted him as part of my life, and I have told no one. And now, tonight, he has come for me. I have felt his presence more strongly over the past few days, his very being enveloping me like a dark cloud, as the pain in my stomach has got ever worse. He is coming, and this time he is going to take me with him. Not many will miss me. I have no friends to speak of, only work colleagues, and I have not spoken to any of them since my retirement. My children have grown up and moved away. They have their own lives to occupy them, and we have never been close anyway. They always got on better with their mother. Frances will miss me, I hope. I have done my best to make her happy, and I like to think that I succeeded sometimes. Yes, maybe Frances will miss me. He's coming now. I can hear his unmistakable dragging footsteps on the stair. He's outside the door. He's coming in. I can hear him breathing. He's reaching for me, and his blank eyes are intent on my soul. Alan has come to take me, and I must go.
I live alone, apart from my baby. And as I turn out the light, another hand is already there. My baby won't stop crying in the middle of the night. I will visit his grave and ask him to stop, but it doesn't help. I drift into a deep sleep when I hear my name being whispered. I go to the window and look out. The stars have gone away. I can't sleep either, he softly said. I couldn't help notice he was wearing the dress he was buried in. If you get scared at night, don't close your eyes for too long. There's a reason you're scared, and now you can see it. I saw my reflection blink.
Hello. Ween. Ah, yeah, I know. Now, I would like to begin tonight, as is traditional, with an exciting act of extraordinary bravery, for which I require complete silence in this guest bedroom. Ruth Elphick. Now, was that really an extraordinary act of bravery? Yes. Yes, it was, as you will soon discover in 5 minutes' time when I perform the ballad of Ruth Elphick. This is a spoof, spooky, or spoofy, if you will, song based on a story that my grandfather told me when I was 7 years old. And at the time, I thought it was the most terrifying thing that I'd ever heard. To see if it has aged, I told my own children the story this morning, and they did indeed pronounce it to be the stupidest thing that they'd ever heard. And when I asked, did I scare you at all, my 6-year-old daughter genuinely said, you did a bit when you started singing, which I think is her idea of a joke, but she did seem unusually enthusiastic when Susie said that she was taking them to her mother's this evening and thus they'd be missing the live performance. Anyway, the story goes like this. Just over 200 years ago, an ancestor of ours by the name of John was very hard up. He had a wife and kids to support. So he and his brother William decided to go digging for treasure, specifically in the grave of Ruth Elphick. This was a woman who had been interred 2 months previously, allegedly whilst wearing an expensive necklace. Now, obviously, I cannot condone the robbery of graves, but I think it is important to note that it was a lot more prevalent in those days and arguably demonstrated a lively entrepreneurial spirit in the family. So John and William take a long walk out north of London to this graveyard at night, where they're able to fairly easily locate this grave because to some fanfare, Ruth Elphick has been buried in a new style of tomb. Where there's a bell built into the tombstone with a chain running down through the ground into the coffin. The idea being that if you're scared when you're buried, you're not actually dead, but you were actually just having a bit of a kip. Then when you wake up, you just give a bit of a tug on the bell end, and then the people above ground will come and dig you out. And so they dig up the coffin and notes that the bell is not ringing. But when they prise open the lid, there inside is Ruth Elphick, and she is still dead, obviously, because she's been there for like 2 months. Presumably, she must now be rotten and manky and smelly. If you ever chatted up anyone in Wedgie's nightclub when they turn the lights on him, you get the picture. So there she is, and much to their delight, she is wearing the necklace, but they can't get it off because it won't fit over the skull and it's kind of rotten into the flesh. And so what John does is he very delicately smashes the skull in with his spade, gets the necklace, they fill in the grave and they leg it. As they begin the long trudge back to London, it starts raining. so that when a passing coach and horses stops and offers them a lift, they gratefully accept. They get inside and they sit with the one lone occupant there, who is appears to be a female, but she sat with a cape on with a hood up. They introduce themselves. She says nothing and just sits in silence, staring down at this spade sat in the floor in the middle of the carriage. 20 minutes later, this awkward silence is broken by the sound of a ringing bell. So John looks out the window, and much to his shock, he realizes that for the last 20 minutes, this carriage has simply done a large loop, and it's now back at the graveyard. And he's got a horrible feeling he knows where the sound of this ringing bell is coming from. And as he looks out into the graveyard, he realizes that in the reflection of the glass, the woman is no longer staring at the spade, but she's now staring at him. And furthermore, for the first time he can see, her face has suffered some sort of massive, blunt trauma. What is it? William asks. John says, it's Ruth Elphick. And he turns to look at this battered face. And from inside this hood comes this quiet little voice that says, it was you! And she smashes in his face with the spade, killing him. Now, the cynical lawyer that I have become is rather skeptical about this story. This was presumably originally recounted by William as he explained that he hadn't killed his own brother to take the necklace for himself, but rather it was a vengeful zombie what done it. In practice, can't say that I ever ran the vengeful zombie defense, certainly not successfully. And yet it didn't occur to me to ask any of these questions because I was focused on the next bit that good old grandpa told me, which was the bit that terrified me. And he said that Ruth Elphick thereafter cursed all of John Cox's male descendants so that if they were to ever say her name in a reflective glass, bells would ring and she would appear and she'd do them in. And he swore that that is what happened to his cousin. Now, even at 7 years old, I was cynical enough to suspect that that was probably bollocks. And yet, for some years, when my brother would tease me and dare me to say her name in the mirror and call me chicken, I would say, oh, no, I'm not chicken, I'm just rather busy at the moment, and I never actually got around to doing it. And hence why I argue that tonight you have witnessed an act of true bravery, which is the motive for this pastiche song, which you may recognize as Destiny's Child's Say My Name. I am slightly losing my train of thought there because my phone has just gone off. And you'll be pleased to know it is not Ruth Elphick calling. Would have been funny if it was. And it is merely another offer of cheaper broadband. But being Halloween, they seem to have done a Sydney pool. They seem to have withheld the number. Can you see that? The classic old private number in the hope that I will actually get around to answering it. Although I could have sworn I did put this on silent. That is on silent. I swear that is. Oh.